Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Gilda Evans, bringing you the Autism Resource Podcast. This podcast and the ARP website are your one stop knowledge and resource space for autism and much more. I'm very pleased to have Jessica Brout join me as my guest today. Jessica is the program director for Pathway at UCLA Extension, an inclusive college program for neurodivergent young adults at UCLA Extension. Over the past 6 years, Jessica has worked to increase student access to the Pathway program and maintain a high level of inclusion. Prior to joining Pathway, Jessica was the manager of educational programs at Outfest, supporting at risk LGBTQ young adults in obtaining an education in film. Welcome, Jessica, and thanks so much for taking the time to join me and discuss the work that you do.
Thank you so much for having me, Gilda. Very excited to be here.
So, to get us started, why do you feel it's important for students with intellectual or developmental disabilities or diagnoses to have that college experience?
I think with Pathway, we just see this exponential growth when students come to college. And when it comes to, any student, whether it's a neurotypical student or neurodivergent student, college is really where you learn how to be an adult. And, part of that is definitely taking courses that are going to prepare you for career. But when you talk to most people about their college experiences and how it prepared them for the workforce and for adulthood, it's often they talk about the friendships, they talk about the internships, they talk about those experiences. And I think that's very universal. So, when it comes to pathway and preparing your neurodivergent student for any post secondary education program, it really is about them seeing their peers going to reach this point, in high school where they're starting to talk about college, starting to talk about adulthood and what's next. And I believe that every young adult, wants that experience. Some, college might not be for them, but for a large part of our population, it is. And I want to make sure that neurodivergent students and families with neurodivergent young adults know that this is a wonderful option that they can access and really taking the steps to prepare for that just as you would with a neurotypical student.
All right, so continuing along those lines, for young adults for whom this experience is something that would be good, that they would be interested in, what can families do to help prepare them for that experience?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so many things. And I think it really starts with independence and thinking about in the family home, how can I start working with my child to become an independent adult? Just in the same way that you would for a neurotypical student. So I think it's having responsibilities and having to be accountable for your actions, starting in the family home. So, having responsibilities at home when it comes to helping with the grocery shopping and understanding how to make purchases on a budget. Having chores that the family depends on you to do. So it's not just you that you're thinking about, but also that other people are counting in you. And that's going to be something that young adults will see in a college setting, in an adult setting when they have roommates. Absolutely. I think it's also about making sure that you're having conversations as families about what or do you want to do in the future? As early as middle school, I know at UCLA we have schools taking tours and starting to think about college and what that will look like. So I think with your neurodivergent young adult, it's really important to have those same conversations, especially as you enter into high school. What are you looking to do after high school? What is exciting to you? Making sure that they have volunteer experience out in the community. What are organizations that they would be interested in working with? And getting those experiences of working with a team. Perhaps getting a part-time job. Many, school programs also have a workability where they can get an internship, where the student can also have supports. So making sure that individuals are getting that opportunity if they want to volunteer or even have some sort of internship, starting to have that workplace experience. And then I would also say, just as you would for your neurotypical young adult, preparing financially for college as well, thinking about what are the steps If your son or daughter is a client of the Regional Center System or Department of Rehabilitation, those are entities that you can start having these conversations with. My child is looking to go to a college program, and really making sure that you are planning financially and also seeing what resources are available from some of these organizations as well is huge. So those are just a few of the things. And also, we often talk about with our students in the K through 12 education system, maybe mom or dad was in the driver's seat of your education and you were more in the passenger seat. And as you get into, those later high school years and certainly in college, you are in the driver's seat. You're an adult. You're here by choice. So as a parent, starting to open up those opportunities for your young adult to be in the driver's seat, to let them be the decision makers, and as a parent, know that you are a trusted advisor, having your young adult know that you are there to support them, but starting to allow them to make some of these decisions because that will be the ultimate goal when they're out on their own.
Well, those are all excellent suggestions, and all that foster independence and growth and the ability for a young adult to participate in a program like this. Now, can you share with me a little bit about the history of the Pathway program and how it's grown and evolved over the years?
Yeah, so I'm so proud to be part of its legacy now. But it really all started in the late 90s. There was a group of Southern California families who all had neurodivergent young adults, and they were seeing their, neurotypical siblings go away to college and have this fantastic experience, and they really wanted the same. So these families got together. And they went to a few different Southern California colleges, sort of pitching this idea. And the idea of inclusive college really, started more on the East Coast. So there really weren't many programs. There was one, Taft, in California, and there were none in Southern California at the time. Maybe there were in the nation, 10 tops. So when going and pitching this idea, UCLA was really receptive. UCLA is also one of the few UCEDs, which is a University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities. And they have an office called the Tarjan Center, which is really a center for research in neurodiversity. So Olivia Rayner, Dr. Rayner, was the first person at UCLA who really said, yes, let's make this happen, created a committee, came up with a business plan, found a home for this program at UCLA, which ended up being UCLA Extension. And by 2006, we're able to launch the program in earnest as a residential program. So students could have the opportunity to live independently just off campus and take courses at UCLA Extension, as well as audit courses on the main campus. And so that was 20 years ago almost. We're almost at our 20-year anniversary. And I have gotten to be involved for the last 8 years now. So I have really seen the growth nationally. There are now so many more programs. In California alone, we are one of 7 like-minded programs that are part of a consortium together. And it has really just been wonderful to see these programs pop out throughout the nation. We have a state group as well as a national group where we can see all of the program's growth and connect with other programs like ours and use resources. There's also a great organization called Think College, and that really acts as a center point for all programs like ours and for families looking. You can look at Think College to see what programs that are inclusive post-secondary programs in the nation that might be a good fit for your student. And with Pathway, we have really had to evolve because 20 years ago, the things that were common and best practice are not the same as they are today. So, really looking to see and working with the Tarjan Center, who's doing all this amazing research on neurodiversity and neuroscience, really working with them to continue to update our curriculum, to update our offerings, and also to talk to our students and families about what's working. Students will tell me, oh, like this is something, we do a human relationships and sexuality class. And some will say, I've never learned any of these concepts or topics before. And some will say, oh, at my high school, we do a whole series on this. So, really continuing to listen to our clientele, our students, and adapt based on their needs and continuing to be as inclusive as possible. And that also means working with main campus UCLA to advocate for equal access. So throughout the years, we now have students, they're eating at the dining halls, they're auditing classes, or even doing concurrent enrollment with classes on the main campus. They're using the libraries and the gym. They are joining clubs and organizations on campus. And they're working with UCLA undergrads as mentors and tutors to help them navigate this new experience of college. So we are consistently evolving, and at UCLA, we say we're lifelong learners, and we apply that to our program as well, always adapting and learning based on what our students are telling us they need and want.
Well, I think that's wonderful. It is just so great to hear about how it's grown and evolved over the years and the fact that it's an ongoing process. It's continuing to grow and evolve. That never changes, that never stops. And by the way, happy anniversary.
Thank
Happy
you.
20 years. And it's wonderful to hear about Think College. I guess this is a resource, another resource that's out there for people to access that actually gives them information about all the various programs that are out there along these lines. Is that right? That's
Exactly. Yes, it is an
that's
amazing
wonderful.
resource. And it's, incredible in that not only does it offer resources for families that are thinking about college, but also as a college administrator, I use it. They offer many resources, like if I need to learn more about how do I make more inclusive internship opportunities happen, there is a lesson plan or documentation or research that will help me. So it's truly terrific. And I really believe that for any student looking for a post-secondary program, there is a program that's a fit, and we all offer something a little bit different. So being able to sit down and search and say, okay, I want a 2-year program and I want it to have a residential option and I want this, that, or the other, you can really refine and see what's available or based on your interest and what you want to study. So it's a really powerful resource.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's wonderful to know about, and it's wonderful that you're letting people know about that through this episode. Um, Tell me, what does a typical day at Pathway look like for a student? You said many of the programs are different. They all offer something a little bit different. One might be a good fit for one person, another might be a better fit for another person. So tell me about a typical day, if there is such a thing, at Pathway for a student.
Yeah. So with Pathway, what's really great about our program is that we're a part of UCLA and we're part of a big UC campus. So I think students really come to us wanting that experience of being a true Bruin and being part of a big UC. So not only being in Westwood and having that access to, the village, but also being able to go to these big football games on the weekends and things like that. And with our students, we have our first year students, our second year students, and then we have recently added a third year program. So, depending on your year, it looks a little different. But as a first year student, you have the option of either being a residential student or a commuting student. And I would say 75% of our students do live residentially, so in an apartment just off campus. And that's huge because still, and even in California, there aren't that many programs that have the residential component. But we believe that if you want to learn how to be independent, living independently is a part of that. So many of our students are going to start their day waking up in their apartment. And we have a wonderful partnership with an organization called Level Up Solutions. They are a regional center vendor and they work with us to help provide the supported living for the program. So, all of our students who live in the apartments, there is a unit that Level Up Solution also has in that apartment, and they offer overnight support and supported living round the clock so that our students are getting that additional wraparound support. So in the morning, they might be, checking in, making sure students are up and ready, giving them any reminders they might need, and then on their way to class. And for our first year students, we have core classes that we've developed that we feel help with executive functioning skills and also with just general college preparedness. So, as a first year student, you're taking some of those courses, and those run the gamut from a college online success course, helping students navigate all of the online tools you're going to need as a college student, working on skills like note taking. We also offer a time management and organization course that our students will take. So, really thinking about how you're going to manage time now as an adult and manage your own schedule. We do a health and nutrition class that our students attend that really focuses on now that you're preparing or purchasing your own meals, how do different foods break down into your body to give you short term or long term energy, and also going to the gym and exercising and using how to learn all the machines. And then we also offer a course in career development. So, starting to think about what your career interests are, what are the requirements for entering into that career field, what are your skills, and how might that translate into a job. So, students are pretty busy Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., taking some of those core classes when they start the program. And then as they move through the program, so as early as the winter, they're starting to select classes based on their interests. So 25% of those courses are these, core life skills courses, and then the rest are up to them to choose based on their career interest or academic interests. And because we're housed at Extension, they can take courses at UCLA Extension in any certificate. So anything from early childhood education, working in a preschool, to cybersecurity and learning how to work on an IT team. And then students can also audit or do concurrent enrollment on the main campus, so taking classes there. And we will then work to modify any content based on how our students best learn. So everything is very individualized. And in addition to the academic courses, throughout the day, the student will meet 2 to 3 times a week with their educational coach, their tutor. So, somebody who they work with who is a UCLA undergrad that's going to help support them with managing what assignments are due that week, helping proofread for them, helping them figure out an organizational system that works for them, and then also providing mentorship and telling them, where the good coffee is on campus and I'm living alone for the first time, and how is that for you as a college student, which is awesome. And then students also meet with an academic advisor weekly. So, one of our team who's making sure everything's on track and they have all the academic resources they need. And then a part of their week is also working with Level Up and working on those supported living skills. So, Regional Center will cover, as a Regional Center client, anywhere from 2 to 16 hours a week of supported living based on your need. So they'll work with their staff on cooking, cleaning, going grocery shopping, menu planning, navigating any sort of roommate disputes. So that is a part of their week. And then they're going to the dining halls, they're working out on campus at the gym, maybe on a Friday or Saturday, they're going to a football game or a basketball game. And then as a second or third year student, they also have the internship piece. So, a part of their day would be going to their internship site. And so, we work with placing each student at 2 to 3 different internships while they're with us based on their interest. And part of that is going to their internship, working with their site supervisor and a job coach, and working on new skills so that they can experience different hands on career paths and see if that might be a fit for them. So yeah, that's kind of a snapshot of a typical week, I guess.
That's amazing. I mean, what a wonderful holistic approach. I can't think of anything you haven't covered. I mean, that's fantastic. So you guys have it all together, have it all covered. You've got the student pretty busy. So what do you think is a productive role for parents to take as their children move into adulthood and a more independent role themselves?
Absolutely. And it's, interesting you say we keep them so busy because we definitely do. But I would say something parents can start thinking about is that in college, and I'm sure everybody remembers, you do have downtime. And that downtime is for you to study, to connect with peers, to go grocery shopping, to, take care of yourself. So in your regular life, also understanding that when you are an independent adult, working with your student to what are you going to do with downtime and free time? What kind of choices are you going to make? Because if it's being on YouTube or, playing video games with all that free time, that's going to present itself when you're living independently. So starting to think about those things, because our ethos is our students are adults and we treat them as adults. So as a parent, as your, young adult is reaching 18 years old, thinking about how we're preparing them. We don't want it to be this rough transition from I'm a kid to I'm an adult overnight. We need to be giving them the tools to be successful. So I think that goes back to that analogy of the driver's seat and the passenger seat. We are taking steps to make sure our young adults are comfortable in that driver's seat and slowly giving them responsibilities. So, a good example would be as a parent, if you're taking a family vacation, working with your young adult to say, okay, here's our budget. Help me plan maybe one day of this trip. And this is how much money we have to spend, and what are we going to do? Making sure they're having experience doing things like making their own appointments. When you have a prescription at the pharmacy, how do we fill it? When we go grocery shopping, what's our budget? And are we staying in that budget? When we're in the car, okay, you be the navigator. Can you tell us how to get to, the aquarium? So really starting with some of these adult decision-making skills that we're making every day as independent adults, starting to empower your young adult to make those decisions with a supportive family. So when they are on their own in college or out of the family home, they feel confident in doing so. And I think a big thing we talk to our students about is that as an adult, it doesn't mean that you never ask for help and advice again the day you turn 18. We're always going to our parents and our family and friends and asking for their input and help. It just means that now you're the decision maker. So we're not saying, I don't know, let me ask mom or let me see what my sister would do. But getting their advice, using your support circle, we call it, as your trusted consultants who are going to give you good advice because they know you better than anybody, but ultimately feeling empowered to make those decisions. And I think also, as a parent, really encouraging your young adult to think about the future and what they want for themselves, and then helping support them in, okay, if this is what you're interested in, getting some hands-on experience so we can see, I know I've had students who really want to work in a bakery. That's always what they pictured for themselves. And then they get that hands-on internship, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to be at the bakery at 5 o'clock and being on their feet all day. And they say, this is not what I pictured for myself. So we need to encourage our young adults to have those hands-on experiences so that they can start seeing, okay, this is what might be a fit or what might not be a fit, and really taking those steps, as early as high school.
Well, Jessica, we have really covered a lot of ground and you have shared some really wonderful information. So at this point, I would like to ask, what do you think is the most important takeaway for our listeners to have from our conversation?
Yes. So I would say that the most important takeaway is if you are a parent, or if you are an individual who has an intellectual or developmental disability, college is very much an option for you. And there are so many wonderful programs out there. So you should definitely start thinking about it. If you're a client of the Regional Center System or Department of Rehabilitation, you should start talking to your coordinator about college. And really just being excited by the opportunity that, we talk about Pathways history and 20 years ago, what was out there. And now there are so many inclusive post-secondary programs. So really knowing that there is an option for any students who's interested, and there are also financial supports, which is so important. So really looking and seeing what scholarships and what financial supports are also available is huge. And I would say that, I'm just very proud to be representing the Pathway program and the wonderful work we've done over the past 20 years. And I think, like any college program, we're always evolving. So, very excited to see what the next 20 years bring.
Well, I think you are, and so am I. And I think a lot of our listeners are as well. And thank you so much, Jessica, for your time and for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And for any listeners who want to learn more about the Pathway program, you can find us at uclaextension.edu/pathway. And again, really want to promote the wonderful resource of Think College that I think will really help listeners in their journey to thinking about inclusive post-secondary education.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you for having me, Gilda.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast. You can find it on Apple iTunes, Amazon Music, Spotify, and other popular platforms. We'd appreciate you taking the time to leave us a review. You can also listen to the podcast on YouTube at ARP Social, where you'll find bonus content. And be sure to follow us on Facebook or Instagram to get up-to-date notifications about the latest news and episodes. If If you would like more information on anything else we've covered on the Autism Resource Podcast, visit us online at autismresourceproject.org/podcast. Be sure to check out our growing website often, since we are continually adding useful information and resources. I want to thank our listeners for spending part of their day with us. This is the Autism Resource Podcast, and I'm Gilda Evans, reminding you to take care of yourself and that special person in your life.